All right, hello everybody, and welcome to an oral history of the common folk. Today I'm joined by my co-host Rodney, and my two guests are David and Xeno. Today we're going to be talking about Dark Souls. Take it away, Xeno.
Well, where do you want to start? It's like I can talk about it for like hours. I mean, we could start
Um,
just
well,
general overview of what they're about. Just Dark Souls 1, 2, 3,
Yeah,
4.
let's see. Why don't
I
we
know the
just start
most about
from Dark
3.
Souls 1?
Lore, please.
yeah, I was
Lore,
going to say,
lore.
like, what do you prefer more, the lore or the game?
So, to me the game is like spicy food. It's an acquired taste. Not everybody likes
Hmm.
spicy food.
Hmm.
Um I
And everybody has
get
different
home
tolerances for
from
spicy
a
food too.
big I get off of work from a big long stay-at-home day of agonizing over corporate instructional videos for my job that I'm getting into. And the first thing I don't play first person shooter. I don't play Super Mario Bros. I go play Dark Souls because that's fun. It's a good pain. I think it's better when once you get good at it
I've
because
only played.
I'm someone who has gotten good. I
Dark
enjoy
Souls
the
is a
PvP.
Dark Souls is a great game until you put it down once, and then you never want to play it again because you'll never get back where you were.
Well, I
That's my feeling. I
just to
can't
say,
go back to that game.
yeah, it's just you say you come home and you relax. Like, I've only played Dark Souls once and it infuriated me. Everything was clunky, the controls were weird. I
You have
couldn't
to play it
understand it.
with the mindset.
Which one did you play? Was that Dark
3.
Souls 1?
I played 3.
3? You
Yeah.
thought 3 was clunky?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I've been told.
Two is the clunkiest if you asked
I'll
me.
say 2
It's
is.
it's
One's
1.
one's pretty bad. Two feels like garbage.
2
It
can
feels like
feel pretty slushy sometimes,
it
but
feels like
1
garbage until like a half an hour. Then I start
in
feeling comfortable.
But
uh,
here's what I really wanted to ask you about is the lore for that game seems freaking awesome.
right,
Like,
so
I
you've
know
you've
like the very basics, but if you
have
want to
y'all
do like a
seen
deep dive, that'd be great.
y'all seen the intro cinematic, right? The shrouded by the world was began as an endless expanse of fog, arch trees, and everlasting dragons, right?
No.
And that's literally it's gray. Nothing changes. Time didn't exist, and nothing happened. What was the arch trees were they weren't just static trees. They were living creators. And even though time didn't happen, they spent their time nurturing life, most of which withered away, and most of which was immortal, like them. Like you've heard of the great serpents, the uh, Hoth, and what's the other one? Seath. No,
You
Seath is a
explaining it
dragon.
feels like
Uh,
dialogue from the game in which they are not explaining it.
Are those the
Yeah, it's
serpents that you
it's
fight in the
so,
very first boss in 3?
so the
no.
the
Okay.
issue
The
with Dark
this
Souls
this
is it's. I was gonna say the issue with Dark Souls is a lot of it is like not really very forward with you.
They expect you to have prior knowledge all the
Yeah,
time.
okay.
like
I've
3 is like if you haven't played the first two, well, fuck you. Go play the other ones to have an idea of what's going on.
Like, what's like the general story of Dark Souls? Like, why is the
so
world
that's
the way it
I'm
is?
getting to that.
Okay,
So
go ahead.
and that's where all the immortal species like the primordial serpents. I totally didn't just look this up because I forgot. The primordial serpents, which are the two that
Lit.
we know the names of, are Koth and Frampt. Those are the big snakes with ears and teeth that you
His
meet in Dark
name's
Souls 1.
Frampt.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there's one whose name
it's
is
Framp,
Frampt.
I'm looking up some
and
fucking Framp art.
he he's just a snake with
Frampt, I think.
he's a
Frampt.
snake
It's a good
with
name for a
straight
pet.
ass teeth and like
Frampt.
beagle ears.
Yeah, they look really weird. They actually have really short bodies. You
Ah, I
can't see them
love
in Dark Souls
Frampt.
1, but in Dark
Yeah,
Souls 3
Framp.
there's statues of them and they have little short like dog-like bodies.
Yeah, they're like little doggy face. It's so fucking weird, man.
Frampt is such a
So
boy.
so
And yeah,
What
so
go
is
ahead.
said in
then
general.
one tree made a mistake. It invented fire.
Like
A
Like
tree?
fire like we know it, or is
It
this fire
invented
like
it invented fire, the fire that we know it. That was the first flame. You've seen the intro, the heat and cold, light and death. This fire and the dark created disparity for the first time. There were two things that were opposites of each other for the first time,
uh,
and that created uh, 2 points, and this began the flow of time. Now, that's when the one of the immortal creations, which are the lords or the men, who then that's what Darkseid or Koth says, and it's true to the lore, is that the undead, the mindless zombie walking around, is the true form of humanity. That's what the lords used to be. That's what all the humans you meet in game, or that were supposed to have exist before the game started. That's what the first men all started as.
wait,
And
so
there
they're
were
zombies and then they became fleshed
yes,
out people?
the the immortal hollows who can't die with have no personality because they've just died so many times that they just wake up the next day and continue living.
Mm-hmm.
They're
That
more like
is the true
golems
state of,
than zombies.
yeah, sort of, but
Yeah.
Hmm.
that's the true state of man.
Man,
The
that's
men that we know with the light souls that are attuned to fire did not come until after fire began. Men existed first in this setting.
so the ashen ones.
They weren't Ashen yet. Ashen is way later.
Oh, okay.
So
So fire is soul, basically.
fire is, there were four Lord souls, and each of the lords, there were four lords, three of which are notable, and one of which is why Dark Souls happens. So, or why Dark Souls is called Dark Souls. So there's the three lords of Lord of Sunlight Gwyn, the Witch of Izalith, and the Nito, the First of the Dead. And these three lords are the ones who gather up their power and they become huge and powerful, right?
Are these the guys you're fighting in the third game?
No, these are the ones you're fighting in the first game.
Oh. You know what?
But
That should
but
have been
who
obvious.
So
but who
so the
gave
thing
him
about
this
Dark
power?
Souls
Like
it was
how
the
did they go
fire.
from
They
the
found souls in the fire, the souls of
oh
lords. And then there was a fourth lord, and everybody forgets them when they're talking about the lords because it's in their name. The furtive pygmy. Furtive means lost or forgettable or small, things like that, fleeting. And the pygmy, instead of taking its lord soul that it found for itself and becoming a huge, powerful demigod, took its soul and spread it out across as many other hollows as it could. And this is what became humanity.
as
Anyone who
humanity as
came
we
from
know?
the other three souls are either lords or undead. And that's the humanity you know is descendants of the furtive pygmy. And the furtive pygmy is the one who found the dark soul. It was a soul in the dark, right? So,
Yeah. Okay.
So what's special about the Dark Soul?
Well, the Dark
well,
Souls life is the whole idea. It's like consciousness, right?
the dark soul is, so humans have two souls, which something that is theorized by people such as Vati, who is like considered Dark Souls' Bife, I would say,
Mm.
um, is he is he has theorized that humanity could have two souls. That's why you see the dark surrounded by a little thin light layer, right?
Okay.
Whenever you have the humanity object in the first game, uh, which,
Yeah.
because that is inside of, Gwyn knew that the sunlight would eventually come to an end, and that humanity would be the one to put them down, because the Pygmy Lord made the right decision for its soul to continue of spreading it out between anyone who would come after. And that's what and in order to prevent this, Grin put a curse on humans that would cause them to die. And that is that's the ring, the dark sign. Now, near the end of an Age of Fire, it turns out that the dark sign didn't just cause humans to die, it also caused them to become undead near the end of the Age of Fire, right? Now, this is unfortunate for the Lords because they don't want to be surpassed by humanity. So he took all of them and put all the humans in the Ringed City, which is one of the locations that you visit in Dark Souls 3 in the DLCs. But after he had placed the curse on humanity, that's when the backstory happens. A lot of the biggest kingdom to rise up is Lordran. It's literally the place of lords. And that's where Dark Souls 1 happens. There's a lot of tangents I could go off on here, but I want to get kind of a general overview of the setting through each game before I continue.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, Gwyn, when the Age of Fire. So, the Age of Fire and the Age of Dark would have been kind of in sync. There would have been just equal periods of light, dark, light, dark, light, dark. And then Gwyn committed the first sin, and that is he relit the flame with his soul. That's what started the relighting of the flame. That was the first relight. Then there was a light age of man, and then Dark Souls 1 happens at the end of that age. When the chosen undead assumedly relights the fire, it begins the second age. And then an undead relights that fire when it comes around again. Third age, fourth age. Sometime in between these ages, but not quite at the end of an age of fire. It's coming close, but it's not time to relight the fire yet. Dark Souls 2 occurs. Instead of relighting the fire itself, Dark Souls 2 is a undead trying to cure the curse, right? So he goes to the Throne of Want and does something. Dark Souls 2 doesn't give you an actual gameplay option to relight the throne or relight any fire or cure the curse. You just kind of sit down. You can either take the throne or walk away from it. And if you take the throne, you just kind of sit down and you don't really get to find out what happens after. But Dark Souls 2 is interesting in that it's exploring like the setting before it gets to the point where Dark Souls 1 and Dark Souls 3 are. Any questions so far? Raise your hand if you have any
Lots.
questions.
Lots, but keep going.
Questions
Yeah.
from the class?
So
Yeah.
No.
so then
Keep informed.
so then after many cycles, hundreds of thousands of cycles, you get to Dark Souls 3. In Dark Souls 3, not only is the fire burnt out, but the world is burning out. The Age of Fire is to such a point where the fire itself has started to call on people who failed to light the fire. They weren't strong enough in the past. If you're playing a character in Dark Souls 3 that's not your first time playing, that's not your character's first time attempting to relight the flame, right? But in the past they failed. That's who's in the graves behind Lothric Castle, where you first wake up and the tutorial happens. So then you adventure forth, and there are three endings for Dark Souls 3. And
Is there 3?
yes, there's 3.
Yes, you're
You
right.
can
That's
either
right.
relight the fire,
wow.
put the fire out, or usurp the fire. That one's interesting, and we'll talk about it later.
Some one I played, I forgot all of
So,
them.
I want to know now.
yeah. So
I'm actually
now, what the fire is
okay.
the fire is the representation of is extending the current state of things worth preventing what could arise after from existing.
Oh, that's kind of deep.
Hold
Because
on.
if you've ever
Hold on.
played Skyrim and you get to the end and Parthenax like tells you like, oh, you could kill Alduin, but in doing so you would prevent the next world from coming forth, right? I could talk for another hour. I can't talk as much about Elder Scrolls as I can about Dark Souls, but I could talk for like an hour and a half about that.
Okay, but you're saying the fire is like relighting the fire is continuing the world as it is?
Relighting the fire is
Yes.
continuing the world as it is and not allowing an Age of Dark to take place. The longer and longer the fire is lit,
Hmm.
the more dark and longer lasting that Age of Dark is going to be.
But then, like, during the Age of Dark, there's a moment where somebody has to relight the fire, right? That's a cycle you were talking about?
Have you ever been in a campfire and the fire dies down and you kick the ashes over and it's still there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's that sort of thing. The world kind of goes to ash for a bit, and then the fire eventually reemerges.
Hmm.
Now,
Okay, but then in Dark Souls 3, you're saying the fire is less than
the
embers.
fire is so hundreds of thousands of times this fire has been relit, right?
Yeah.
And throughout this whole time, it's been it's become a ritual. People know that it happens now. It's not like this mysterious thing. It's been documented and written down. And that's why the Firelink Shrine or the new Firelink Shrine exists. And the words, the new Firelink Shrine exists as it does in Dark Souls 3. And have you ever bought the tower key and gone up into the tower behind Firelink?
I have. I know what you're talking about.
You have. If you
Yeah.
fall down, you will realize that there's like an ossuary of full of uh, decaying firekeepers, right?
Yeah. That's where you get
And
the whatchamacallit.
that's where you get the eye, not the eyes. That's where
Yeah.
you get the soul of the firekeeper as well as the
Yeah.
firekeeper's set.
Yeah.
And you are also uh, given in uh, you are also given later in the game a chance to go to the dark, a world that is in dark, a lull between the relightings of the fire, right? It's still
Hmm.
the first flame, but it hasn't been relit. Index Gundyr and Champion Gundyr are the same person. You're literally walking backwards in time. It's really weird. But that's because time is like unraveling.
Side area, but yeah.
And this this Champion Gundyr was late to his bell toll. He woke up too late to try and relink the fire, and so the world fell into dark. So they put the coiled sword of Firelink Shrine in his chest, so that way he would be able to test the next um, Ashen one, somebody who's unkindled
Mm.
and has not yet relit the flames to test them to see if they're strong enough, because he was one of the strongest champions to wake straight up.
Ooh. Okay.
Okay. So all that happens, you get to the end of Dark Souls 3. What are the three ending means? Why do you even have three
So
endings?
so the first ending that most people get if they're just playing the game and aren't like following walkthroughs or really lucky in finding the hidden content quests,
Yeah. So there's some
because
hidden thing to
there's
get a certain
yeah.
ending.
So in order to get the Firelink ending, all you have to do is beat the game, walk up to the fire, press A on it, you relight the flame, and something that is important about that animation, that the cutscene that plays there, is you will see that the relighting in Dark Souls 3 is like barely anything. You've fought foes hundreds of thousands of times more powerful than the first four lords with the original chosen undead from Dark Souls 1. And yet when you get to the the fire and you successfully relight it after fighting the physical manifestation of everyone who has ever lit the fire before you, it just kind of fizzles a little brighter because it's tired. You can only rekindle ashes by blowing on them so many times, right?
Yeah, I guess
Yeah.
that's true.
And
Hey,
then the
so
second
that
ending, which is after you travel back after you walk into the past, and you retrieve the eyes of a firekeeper who saw the dark, the eyes of Gundir's firekeeper, because you remember he was late. The fire was already out.
Yeah.
And Champion Gundir's firekeeper, who he never met, did see the dark. She saw what it was and what it could mean, and then she died. She wasn't undead; she was a firekeeper.
Mm.
And that, if you retrieve her eyes, you are able to tell your firekeeper to engage in a secret betrayal without telling any of the people who are helping you on your a few people who are helping you on your journey. You and your firekeeper aren't just going to let the world pass into dark. You're going to put out the first flame, on like actually put it out, not just let it fizzle for a bit.
Yeah.
And it's implied from dialogue that she says when you first give her the eyes that this isn't a bad thing, because or it might be the most hopeful of the game's endings, is to let this age of dark come, because you're not just relighting the fire and you're not just leaving the first flame to fizzle for a while and let dark come. You are ending the first flame, the flame made of Lord souls, the one that Gwyn relit, right?
Mhm.
And so the one that comes next will be the soul of the pygmy, spread throughout all of humanity, all over the place. And it's not going to be it's going to be much bright. A lot of little fires can spread much more light than a single bright flame, is the idea.
What's the last one for A? Ask
So the
questions.
last one is becoming the Lord of Hollows and usurping the fire. So, from my understanding, the Lord of Hollows is a prophecy that a church of hollows in a land called Londor have had. And those like pilgrims that all have the turtle shells on their back,
Yeah.
those are pilgrims from Londor. And you meet
Yep.
one called Yol, and Yol allows you to take the dark sign and start. Yol allows you to take the dark sign and start hollowing. And if you
Doesn't he
collect
also give you
15
magic?
hollowing, hmm,
Doesn't
he
he also
can
give
sell
you
you a
like
little bit of
magic?
magic, but that's
And
not his
if you
point
kill
for it.
him, you hollow instantly, right?
No. If you
No?
kill him, it's just quest line over.
Oh. Oh.
but he is uh, he's a pilgrim who's searching for a lord to fulfill the prophecy. And when the chosen undead comes along and hollows completely without losing his sanity, that's the big part. He hollows completely without losing his sanity, and as an ashen one who is doing that, he's named the Lord of Hollows.
So real quick, what does it mean to lose your what does it mean to become hollowed, and why would you lose your sanity? What is that
So,
different from cause I know in the first ones you have you have humanity, right? And then in Dark Souls 3 you have embers. So what is
so,
the difference in that regard?
so each game has a different thing. In Dark Souls 1, that's the first. You're actually like consuming the souls of other humans when you find humanities, right?
Yeah.
And you take those souls into yourself and you use it to remain human for a little longer. Those souls are the ones that those souls are the ones that uh, are the pygmy souls.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
what's the phrase I'm looking for? Ask me the question again.
So what's what does it mean to become hollowed? Because I guess my question is because I don't remember a lot of
So
because it's been so long.
someone who
But
is hollowing
yeah.
is, and it's something that'll happen to anyone who becomes undead near the end of the Age of Fire. And when you imagine imagine the PTSD that people get from like near death accidents, right?
Okay.
Now imagine actually dying and remembering and then waking up the next day and remembering everything up to and including the point of death and passing past the threshold into the void, right?
Okay.
Now imagine that you experience hundreds of those. And eventually as your past resurrections get farther back, things before those start to become hard to remember.
Okay.
And so you eventually forget who you were and you go hollow. The only thing that exists to you is where you're standing and memories of death.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Okay. Got it.
That's sad.
And as the Lord of Hollows, you are a hollow who has not forgotten. They remember who or at least why they're hollowing and what that they have a purpose, right?
Sigma Hollow.
And so Sigma Hollow. So as the
I
Sigma
hate that.
Hollow,
It's
you
so
come
stupid.
forth. So as the Sigma Hollow, you come forth, and if you proceed down a very careful quest line that is extremely easy to break, then um, you are able to usurp the fire, in which, as a fully hollowed being who has not lost their sanity and is in accordance with the prophecy of uh, the land of Londor, you do take the fire into yourself as if to relight it, but you relight it into a dark flame. The sky does not become bright, it becomes gray. The world gets a little closer to what it was when the arch trees were there, formless and stuff like that. The so imagine that you are now the king of a land full of immortal people who don't really have that much of a sense of self. Everything is static again. There's no reason to go to the future or the past because the present is going to be exactly the same no matter where you are.
And that's a bad thing, right?
And that's a bad thing because it potentially prevents a new age of fire from starting. You've or for a while, maybe forever.
So which is the true ending?
I Dark Souls 3 is the last game in the series. That's why 2 out of its 3 endings are so final.
Yeah, I don't think there should be a fourth one.
There
I was gonna
there
ask you that at the end, but
yeah,
there's-
there's not going to be another Dark Souls. In fact, both DLCs for Dark Souls 3 are exploring the end, right?
Yeah. But say you have the Ring City and you have
Ashes of
um
Ariandel.
it, I th-
Ariandel.
I think if you had
Both of
another
which I was about to
game,
say
it'd
both of
lessen the blow.
Mhm.
but like both the Ring City and Ariandel are like revisits of previous areas. Like those aren't like new concepts in Dark Souls 3.
So, yes, part of Dark Souls 3 is the
A
entire
lot of
game is a nostalgia binge. There's
yeah.
constant references to Dark Souls 1. There's literal enemies from previous areas in the game that have been reanimated or reimagined, or at least an echo of what they were has appeared in the
Yeah.
modern world. That's where the Iron Dragon Slayer comes from. That's
Yeah.
the giant
Iron
suit of
Dragon
armor
Slayer.
with the big axe.
I
It's an
honestly
Yeah.
thought
echo
that
of Ornstein.
I thought echoes were hollowing. I'll be honest. That was my like in
Uh,
brain. That's what I thought the lore
no,
was.
when I say echoes, I mean like it's just history repeating itself.
Uh,
Hmm.
Well, because it's like, well, I mean, like the huge thing when you come back to New Orlando for the first time in Dark Souls 3, and you're going up and taking the spiral staircase, and it's going all the way back up to the front. It's like, oh shit, like I've been here before. It's a
I
huge.
I
It
too
it
would
really
not
is a
like to go to
bender.
Orlando.
So,
So I have a lot of questions.
all right.
Like,
Choose any
n-
of them. You can even ask, what is this boss and what do they mean? And I'll try my best to explain it. I'm much more familiar with Dark Souls 3 than I am with 1 and 2.
Got a question that you probably don't have the answer to. Is it
All right.
true that all of Dark Souls is from one dude's brain?
Almost the entirety of Dark Souls world is the brainchild of one man.
That's why. Oh man, that's so cool. Also, so that must suck.
The
Gross.
Hidetaka Miyazaki is his name.
Yeah. Imagine
He
living in that
is.
man's head. That sucks.
well,
Hmm,
well, the reason why, like, I think Dark Souls is so alluring to a lot of people, it's like you have this great overarching narrative that sort of like how Destiny was. You
Well,
had to dig to find out like what it was truly about, and I think that's like one of the big reasons why Destiny and other games of that sort of type of storytelling are kind of that popular, even though they shouldn't be because they're not
well,
traditional storytelling.
it's
But I was,
traditional storytelling has a very clear beginning, middle, end. Dark
yeah,
Souls has a little bit of that, but most of the lore is fragmented,
nah.
and a
You
lot
could
of
I'm
have.
not.
games
I'm not even
try and
saying like
replicate that.
no.
But
Listen, I'm not even trying to say that there should be like a beginning, middle, end. It's the format of storytelling is told through
where the
discovery
player,
rather than
yeah, the player
exposition.
has to actually investigate to find the exposition.
Yeah.
But
So
I will
my
say real
question
quick.
is, no, hold on. My question is, why is that so interesting as opposed to a story that's beginning, middle, end? And
I I think
like,
part of
why
it
do you
is
like that more? Why do you like that story more than anything? Why has like Dark Souls been your favorite game? I'm assuming, right?
I feel like the way that the world feels like a collection of things at the end, it's like almost an examination of what a civilization was after the fact, right? But you're a
Autopsy.
person living in the ashes who can only find bits and pieces.
Hmm.
And so you have to piece those together. And I feel like it's the possibility of like there's different ways you could fit it together and some of them make sense, but then you find this item description that invalidates your entire theory over here, and so you have to rethink it. And that's I enjoy that, but the the dark The Dark Souls world specifically, why such a dreary and depressing one?
Well, like my final question
God,
was gonna be, it's like
because it's
why
cool.
there's like such a huge barrier to entry for Dark Souls because the game is so difficult.
Hmm.
Um, but the narrative is really cool. Like I'm not saying this from like game journalist thing, where it's like,
Hmm.
oh, games have to be easy to be liked. I'm saying
I
like
feel like
do you think the barrier of entry to the game is what makes it so special in your mind?
I feel like the barrier of entry and an actual sense of self improvement over the course of a game. It's not just your character getting better, but you yourself are having to develop skills and memorize attack patterns to defeat specific bosses.
Yeah, I gotta say, the game itself is fun. I say the lore is a reward for enjoying the game.
The almost yeah, the lore is a reward for getting good.
Yeah,
I
it.
feel like if Dark Souls had a difficulty option, spoiler alert, it does. Just do multiplayer and summon people. Um,
Yeah.
if if
That's yeah.
if if Dark Souls had like an easy mode where you didn't have to do stuff,
I think that would take away
then
from the
it
lore
it would take away from it because you didn't feel like you earned it the first time.
because you didn't. You didn't earn
You
it.
didn't.
Yeah.
You cheated the game.
Yeah.
You cheated not only the game but yourself.
Yeah. You
You
did.
robbed
You've
yourself of the
you've lessened the
experience of
experience.
uncovering this stuff, right?
Hmm.
Yeah.
And even to me, when I even now, 300 hours into PC Dark Souls 3 alone, with some 600 plus hours on Xbox One that I don't have anymore, um, I find that there's still little bitty details, little visual tidbits, and just even noticing those still feels like something, like I'm discovering something, like wow, I never realized that before. This is only recently I realized, while I was after I had killed one and it had fallen over, that there's this kind of like super hollow, they're called husks. They're people who actually died before the undead curse,
Hmm.
and they're being animated by swarms of maggots inside their skin. And sometimes those kind of burst out and become giant maggot torsos that lunge at you. And
I think that adds to the element of playing the game a second.
and
Okay, going
yeah,
back to lore, you're literally replaying the game is
it,
basically the lore of I'm repeating everything. And I think that
yeah,
again adds to everything. You add more detail, you know more, you're awakening, you're learning, you make
yes.
different decisions because of it. It's
I've really heard a lot about Bloodborne because Bloodborne turns that into an actual gameplay mechanic that is happening in front of you. It's called insight, and it's like a second currency, and your character eventually starts being able to see spoilers, great old ones and stuff. But
let me just say, having played Bloodborne, all that went over my head completely.
but
Just
it's
completely.
in a sense, I really like that Dark Souls is a story of literal hopelessness and still overcoming the odds.
I think that adds to the whole thing is it, the grind, the difficulty. It's all part of that puzzle
Mhm.
of I feel like I've earned something. I feel like I've been
Oh,
something's been taken away and I'm taking it back.
yeah.
It's the gameplay itself. It all tells a story. Um,
So the
also the gameplay. Let me
that's
just
I
say,
it's
beautiful.
exhilarating.
Oh yeah, every slash feels like you finally succeeded. The Chad answer, by the way, is why you like that game. Is it feels good to hit things.
Feels good to hit things.
It just does.
Monkey
It
brain feel
feels
good. Ooh, ooh, ooh,
it
ooh.
does. It just does. The PvP in that game can't be topped, I'd say.
Yep.
3 for me is the best. My cousin really likes
I'll,
2.
people will literally flame war for that and hit you in the face over that.
Yep. It's
A lot of people think that it's two. Some people think that it's one.
and
I would
that
say the
so
invasions
interesting.
probably had. I would say the invasions had more character to them in the older games.
If you want to talk community, that's that whole that whole part of the Dark Souls puzzle just gets deeper and deeper when you realize hundreds of people are playing this game, thousands of people are playing this game at the same time, having the same experience or having a new experience, because the game has that like endless feel to it now. I don't know. It's
So
I could boot up one or two and still enjoy it.
let me ask you this: do you think Dark Souls is in its final form? It's dead and buried, and it should be where it is, or do you think the form should evolve
I
to
think
something like
that
VR or something
Dark
even more
Souls.
immersive than VR when that
I
comes
think
out?
that From Software, the people who invented the Souls like, literally Dark Souls is a genre-defining game, and things are called Souls like in the same way that they're called Metroidvanias, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how all first-person shooters were called Doom clones for a while, because it is a genre-defining game, and so many people have tried to like take that formula and do other things with it, and none of them have ever quite hit that spark that caught off. I
Mhm.
feel like
They
Well, that's
haven't
because Dark Souls
relit the
caters to
flame. A
like
little bit of lore joke for
hundreds
you.
of audiences also.
good one.
Thank you.
Yeah. Um,
Like
I think that
I could be the
Dark
idiot that
Souls.
decides to just hit things and I'm still having a great time. I could be the fucking lore hunter and I'm having an awesome time.
I
I could be the PvP gremlin
Mhm.
and do hundreds of different builds.
I think that From Software has had like, especially Hidetaka Miyazaki, once he got into creative director at From Software, have been trying to make a certain kind of game. Like since the company has been founded, they want to make a certain kind of game, and each game is getting a little bit closer to that. I think that Dark Souls as an IP has come full circle and has reached its deserved, um, nice, happy death with all of its loved ones around the bedside,
Mhm.
But, oh boy, Elden Ring, let me tell you.
I was going to ask you about that.
I am
Are you excited
extremely
for Elden Ring?
excited about that. Um, a bunch of independent journalists like Vadi Vidya and the Fextra Life um, group, who do a great wiki for Dark Souls, have got the chance to go see a 17-minute gameplay reveal that wasn't quite polished enough to be revealed to the public at Gamescom a little bit earlier, I think last week. To date this, by the way.
What they have to
And
say?
it's going to be huge, dude.
Really?
They're taking lessons that they learned from Bloodborne and Sekiro and all of Dark Souls, and they're mashing it together in a giant world with a few things borrowed from games like Breath of the Wild, and I think it's going to be great.
Dude,
I'm
I'm
genuinely
I'm
really excited for Elden
I
Ring as
I
well.
am I am hitting the hype train for Elden Ring in a way that I did not hit the hype train for Cyberpunk.
Yeah,
Let me tell you.
yeah.
let me
No, like
say,
I'm
you've
not.
not once talked to me about this game.
Well,
You
Now,
didn't see. I honestly didn't think that you would have been interested in it.
I
I've
like
I've
Dark
never heard
Souls.
you talk about Dark Souls.
Yeah, I mean, I've played I'm not a gamer, but I play video
Yeah.
games to play video games. I'm not really a lore guy. Um, but
Yeah.
yeah, I
you
love
know,
that. That sounds so
personally,
cool.
like I've tried Dark Souls 3 and I'm terrible at video games, so I couldn't even get past the first boss. I think I got to the point where there's that big old Chungus guy in the armor that spins, and like one of the
Index.
first.
Oh, no! I know where you're talking about. You
It's
didn't
like
beat the
not even a
first
boss.
boss.
It's just like an
It's
ad,
just it's just the guy. Yeah.
just the guy, and he
That
pissed me off so much that I
I
uninstalled the
feel
game.
like that
Wow,
character is there to teach the player a lesson. It's
Yeah.
okay to run through sometimes, because there's a
Well,
giant open doorway on the other side of that little courtyard, and if you take a right, there's a shortcut back to a bonfire you've already been to.
there was always something. When I played Dark Souls, it was like I couldn't get past the feeling of combat. I just didn't like it. And that was a personal thing. But like I read all the flavor text, I read all the items, I saw the world around me. I was like, fuck man, if I just push through, there's like something great here waiting for me. But I just never did it. And now that Elden Ring is coming out, I'm incredibly excited because I told myself if I can't fucking beat the first boss of Elden Ring, I'm gonna do it and I'm gonna fucking grind away at that game until I can.
Nice.
So I'm really excited for Elden Ring I can
Eld-
finally experience my first like Dark Souls
from
experience.
what I've heard, Elden Ring is going to be a little bit more choose your own adventure than Dark Souls. The previous Dark Souls titles have been.
It
Well, that's
does.
even
It
better.
There's
definitely
more
feels.
options to approach combat. Archery is going to be viable.
Ew, gross.
Another thing I wanted to ask you about is, do you think Dark Souls should be like a co-op game?
It is a co-op
I
game.
feel like
I mean, not exclusively
the
co-op, but like actual implemented co-op and not the Phantom thing always seemed like a little tacked on to me. You know, I don't know if
I
that's
feel
exactly
like
right, but
the Phantoms limited in their communication by a few emotes provided by the devs and block spamming
mhm.
is the best possible kind of interaction that a game like Dark Souls could have.
You can't
Would
I
you
have
feel
that
like
want
in
if it
that
Dark
were
in
Souls.
Elden Ring?
if it
If you
were
had a
if it were a party system
Yeah, that's what
or
I'm talking about.
for people
Like a fire
advancing
team
through the
system.
world, like one person kills the boss, everybody killed the boss,
Yeah.
I think that wouldn't be the same experience because it feels
being
it
alone
takes
is part
away
of the
the
story.
loneliness
Yeah.
of the story. It's part of the world is being lonely.
That
Mhm.
being said, playing it with people is really fun.
Playing it with people is fun, unless you're a ganker at Gank City. I see you just past Anor Londo group,
Yeah,
standing there with your
I,
four
I told you
summons that
about.
are down leveled from max level and have plus 10 everything and every spell in the game and can cast them all at maximum power. I see you.
Yeah, I
I'm
told you
judging
about
you.
the guy with the great bow that just made it so I couldn't proceed. That was that
Yeah.
was a good like hour of me trying to get through the same area because of a guy with a great bow. Just was having the time of their life.
Well,
So
That was when the
to
game was
wrap
gold.
up, I feel like we could talk a
Ugh.
lot more about Dark Souls and all the specifics, but this was a pretty good like introductory thing, and I'd love to have you on another time so we can discuss it more.
yeah, sure.
Because the thing is,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I personally don't know. What you told me was all new information to me. Like, I don't even know where to begin asking.
Can I give you a tidbit?
Yeah,
The early history, or part of the middle early history of one of the late game bosses, can be found in that same courtyard where you rage quit.
really.
There's a statue in the middle of that courtyard, and you wouldn't know unless you had beaten the game once and were playing it again, and were observational enough to notice the statue. It is a statue of the boss called Pontiff Sullivan holding his greatsword, showing that he had a link to the time period where the original Castle Lothric rose.
Huh.
And Irithyll and Lothric existed somewhere around the same time.
I think for the next episode, I'm gonna print out, or not print out, but I'll have like a document with a bunch of Dark Souls bosses that I thought looked cool, and I'll just ask you about them.
All right. Note that a lot of the bosses in Dark Souls 2 don't have very much lore. It's just sad, but it's a fact.
I
Okay.
just used
Some
3
of
of the
them, like
first ones.
Velstadt, the Bellboy, are pretty cool, but Dark Souls 2's lore is a little bit harder to pick up on than 3 and 1.
We'll
Let me
just save
say,
that for another episode, I think. But
Mhm.
I would argue Dark Souls 2, while feeling well, gameplay wise is pretty thick, pretty great. Um, definitely has the most flaws for me personally.
The creator doesn't like it.
Really,
He did talk to
yeah.
me. It's because they had a 4-year development plan for that game, and after 1 year, got told by the publisher, you have to publish this in the next 6 months. We're tired of spending money on you.
Wow, that's okay. That
Yeah, that's
sucks.
why there's so much ripped out of that game, and that's why like some of the areas just don't like the
Yeah, some of the
transfer between
areas
zones just
are
don't
just
mesh
blank.
because they were just fucked over. Like they didn't have
Yeah,
any time
like
to do anything.
so. Have you ever taken the elevator up from Earthen Peak, also called a tower in the middle of the field? There's an elevator that goes up from that, and it takes you to a castle surrounded by lava.
Wow. Yeah,
all right, well, I'm
It's
gonna
because they
close
couldn't put
off.
it anywhere else. They just couldn't.
yep.
I'm gonna
Okay.
close off the episode now,
All
but
right.
it was really interesting learning about Dark Souls.
I really like having the controversy of saying 2 kind of sucks.
Yeah.
It
At the
does.
very end.
It kind of does.
Kind of sucks.
All right. This is William Oswald signing off.